Okay, it's. I hope that my clock is correct. So it's already 3 Bulgarian time and 1 minute, so we can start. I'm very excited about this session. It's almost the end of this conference of trending topics with so many partners, and I'm very happy that Reach for Change is one of the partners. But more, I'm even more happy that we have two great social entrepreneurs from the portfolio of Reach for Change. One is Knigovište from Bulgaria, and Desi Gavrilova is one of the founders. Will tell us more about what they are doing and how they adapted to the current crisis and post-crisis, whatever we name it. And then we have Shanga Aziz from Walker Room Talks, a project that was widely shared by our Swedish colleagues of Reach for Change before. But now I have a chance to read a little bit more, to see some of their videos, and I was very excited because I believe they're also, like Knigovish, they're addressing very important social issues. Before giving the floor to Shanga and to Desi to present their activities and the reason why they're doing what they're doing, I would like to spend the first few minutes to say a few words about Reach for Change, what we are doing, and how we see the current situation. So I will open now a very short presentation. I promise not to be boring, and to give you a little bit overview for those of you in the audience who don't know what Reach for Change is. So 1 minute. Okay. I hope now, just a second. I hope now you can see my screen, right? Shanga, Desi, can you confirm?
Yeah.
Because I cannot. Great. So Reach for Change is a global organization which is currently working in 3 continents and 15 countries, mostly in Northern Europe, in Russia, and also in Southeastern Europe, in Bulgaria and Croatia, but also in Africa. The good thing is that we have quite a broad understanding of the challenges which social entrepreneurs are facing in different markets. We support more than 1,000 social entrepreneurs globally, and we provide them basically with 4 things. One is seed funding. Second is capacity building in different areas. The third thing is the networking, and it's very important because we create some opportunity both on a local level, but also we are trying to create opportunities for networking on a global level. And the fourth thing, which is, as we said, last but not least, is this stamp of approval. Yeah, because it's a very highly competitive to become part of the Reach for Change network. We usually select only about between 2 and 5% of applicants. It means that really you are one of the best in our market. So what we are doing and what kind of needs we are addressing, the idea is that we believe that millions of children around the globe needs are not being met, and that there is so many things that we can do for them in order to develop them to their full potential. And in the same time, we know that there is a great organizations and individuals which support children and youth, but sometimes these individuals and organizations lack of access to support they needed, and they need just a little bit in order to become more sustainable, more successful, to scale, etc. And this is exactly where Reach for Change is coming in. Yeah, we support these organizations, these great social entrepreneurs like Desi, like Shanga, like many others. Yeah, that's it is also important to at least to try to define, because this morning we already started a discussion what is a social entrepreneur, and we discussed that this is a quite broad term, but this is our, how to say, basic definition, that the social entrepreneurs are those who combining the social benefits and the social impact and business instruments and business approach. So finally, the last part of this short introduction is what is currently happening with the social entrepreneurs in different markets of Reach for Change. Basically, we saw that the social entrepreneurs could be divided in three groups. We have some of the social entrepreneurs who are completely need to stop their activities, because they are working directly with children. In many markets, in most of the markets, in fact, the schools were closed, the kindergarten were closed. There is a very strict rules for social and physical distance. So some of this organization was just unable to work. And they were suffering, because they were suffering both as a impact they're delivering to the society, but also as a business model. On the other hand, we have some organization, and this is the second group, which are completely online. And then Knigovište, it's a good example. It's a platform, and Desi will tell us more, of course. It's a platform which is completely digital, completely online, and it created in a way maybe new opportunities for them, or maybe open some additional doors. Some of these organizations, they really growed during this period. However, maybe the most interesting group is the group in between. Those who are not in complete lockdown, and those who are not in a complete perfect situation, or just growing because of the situation, but those who need some additional supports to adapt, to transform, to digitalize. I don't want to go further before my guest, but I suppose that Locker Room Talk is somewhere maybe in this group, because they have a very successful social impact and business model, but maybe now need to adapt. So that was my brief, I hope, introduction. Desi, would you like to start as we discuss with a short presentation about what Knigovište is and why you are doing these things? And then, of course, we'll go further and I will ask additional questions.
I'll try to be also very brief and very clear. Well, Knigovište is an online educational platform which aims to promote the reading amongst children. This is probably the shortest that you can say about it. What is the problem that we are facing? Why we decided to start it? According to the PISA studies, in Bulgaria in the last years, the percentage of those children that are 15 years that cannot comprehend what they are reading, so which are functionally illiterate children, is growing constantly. According to the last study, it's 43.5%, which is the highest in Europe, which is dramatically high. This means that these are children that cannot actually function in the 21st century. If you're not able to comprehend what you're reading, if you're not able to transform the knowledge that you pick up from one text into another field, you're lost in the area, in the era in the 21st century, where you have to be so much flexible, where professions are changing, and so on and so forth. Ways of working, ways of learning, everything is changing. So it's a huge problem for Bulgaria, we think, and we decided to do something about it. We created this platform, which is basically, you can imagine it as a sort of a computer game, which brings together the offline activity of reading with the online gaming. Basically, we have a special methodology how the quizzes should be, but we make quizzes for children's books. and put them online. And this sort of game where by answering these quizzes, you collect points, you go through different levels, you get your percentage of comprehension, how many, you see how many percentages you have correctly answered, so how much you have understood the text that you have read. And the trick about it is that it's a game at the end. So basically the children get hooked into this gaming component, and a sort of strange competition starts, because to use the platform, in the general case, you are in a class and each child has their profile. The children can, the teacher can see what the children are doing throughout the year, how many points they get, how much they understand, what books they read, how well they understand them. But what happens and what is important for us is that this creates a sort of a special dynamic when the children start talking about the game itself, and through this they start talking about books. They start comparing, like, which books you read, how many points, was it fun? And this is how kind of the topic of reading and book gets part of their daily life. And so we are basically, one can say, into an edutainment. We started a year ago. This year is the first school year when we entered schools. And we have about 15,000 profiles in the platform at the moment for the first year. Our business model is basically that we started with private investment, a little bit, and a little bit of project funding. And then once we launched the platform, once it started going direction the children, it works by subscription. So basically we get some revenue from subscriptions. We have 3 types of subscription: individual, for families, and for whole classes. And the main one, the biggest one of those, is the one for classes. So basically for us, it's very important to reach out to, well, ideally each and every school in Bulgaria, so that all the kids in our school system have access to this game, and through this kind of enhance the pleasure of reading. And through this, by getting this habit of reading regularly, testing what they have understand after they have read a book, they get this reading comprehension that is so important for the 21st century. Maybe that's the short. Oh, I don't hear Yuri though at the moment.
I switch off my mic. Yeah. It was
Okay.
yeah, that was the short version, and I will ask you more questions, and maybe the audience also can write question in the chat.
Please, yeah.
But just to make a bridge to Shanga, who is reading more, girls or boys?
First, happy to be here, and I'll go back to that question. I'm very happy to actually tell more about our organization. As you said, called Locker Room Talk, and what we do is that we educate young boys in locker rooms, where we talk about gender equality and how we can create a new manhood where boys can be in many different ways, but still be boys. So the core idea is that we go to locker rooms, we meet guys that are from 10 to 14 years old. So only guys 10 to 14, 30 minutes before practice in team sports. So it could be soccer, it could be basketball, it could be ice hockey. 30 minutes before practice, once a week during 8 weeks. So that's the base of our program. And a lot of the focus is, as I said, after the 8 weeks, we want the kids to actually feel that they have a room and a role model they can look up to, which is a man, because all of our facilitators is young men from 18 to 25 having these lectures in the locker rooms. And all of them are in some way also doing sports. And I think that's the new thing we want to create a locker room, which is in the results and studies in Sweden, we see that the locker room is one of the most unsafe places for young kids, and especially boys, both in school and in sports. And we want to change that, because the locker room can be a very a good place, and it can be a place where you can get to know each other. And we want the kids to understand it, but also the sport teams, which we are focusing on from the beginning, because we can also directly see in a lot of the studies that are doing now in Sweden that if you are working with these topics about your own emotions, and you can talk about your feelings, you can see that you are doing better on the pitch. But in the beginning, we had a lot of teams that was saying that if you come to our team and talk about gender equality, our boys will not do well on the pitch. So thank you, but no thank you. So that was the response from the beginning.
They will not be masculine enough, right?
Exactly. So that was the response from the beginning. But that has changed a lot, and I'm happy to tell you more about it after your questions, Yuri.
No, but it's very interesting, and in fact, since as I know, DESI project Knigovic maybe is better known for our audience, I would love if you show. I know that you have some pictures, and tell us a little bit more about them. Yeah, I would love to hear more.
Of course, just give me a second. Can you see my?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Yeah.
And now I will advise everybody to double click on the screen to see it better.
Yeah, so as I said, when we started, this was 2016, we analyzed the education plans in Sweden. And we saw that there was a lot of inspirational meanings that you should work with gender equality, but not really some concrete tools for how you should do it. So we met a lot of sport teams and especially coaches in the sport teams here in Sweden. And all of them were saying the same thing, that we know there is an issue in the locker rooms. We know that we have to work with gender equality because the sport federation is actually expecting us to do it, but there is no tools of how we should do it. So I think that was the gap we saw in the beginning, and that we made something out of it, and that then became locker room talk. I will not just tell you about this. And then when we created the program, we actually went out to teams in our local community. I live in a very small town called Finspång. It has almost 12,000 inhabitants. It's quite small. And at the time, it was the presidential election in the United States. This was 2016, and we had one of the candidates talking about women in a degrading way. And the excuse for that was that it was only locker room talk. So that was actually the thing that in the beginning brought us back to the locker rooms. And then me and one of the co-founders, Rogerio, we have been in many locker rooms, and we know how the trash talk can be. Like when I was 13, 14, and I went to my first locker room with the older guys, I had the chance to actually practice with the older guys, and the talk between them were quite different from the talk we had in the young teams, because there you talk about women in a degrading way, you talk about other sexualities in a degrading way, and when you are 13, 14 and you come to this locker room with adults and men, you don't stand up and say, hey, this is not okay. So the risk is that you become a part of it, and this is what we want to change in locker room talk in the program. And what we did now is that we also analyzed that we need to actually create some new tools, and also during this new situations through Corona, we meet the boys in the locker rooms. This is the 8-week program, as I talked about, but we also have to meet the coaches. So how can we create something for the coaches which is not taking a lot of time from them? Because in Sweden, a lot of the coaches are parents having works on daytime, and they help with the team during nighttime. So we actually now are looking at a project where we want to develop a whole education in emotional intelligence and gender equality for coaches. So they can just go to our website, they can order home this package.
But Changa, may I interrupt you here, because that would be another question about how you respond, and also to DESI. No problem. How you respond to the crisis and all the mess it created. But may I ask you about your business model? Who is paying for that? Yeah, because our audience probably, at least part of them are, let's say, classical entrepreneurs, and they would be very interested to hear also about the business and financial part.
I would say it's quite different, and we have a lot of ways that we are approaching. So one of them are local counties. So we have the city here in my city, they are paying for us to actually educate classes in schools. So that's one of the business models. So we have a package like this is the cost for one group and one class for 8 weeks. And they actually pay for it because they have to work with these issues because of the law. Another way is that we have a national collaboration with the Sports Federation. They're doing research on our education plans, and in all of their regions, they also have, as I said, an expectation to work with gender equality, but they don't know how. So we go to their local regions and the Sport Federation in the local regions and say, we have this 8-week program. And as in the same concept we did with the cities, we say like, if you help us actually educate a new facilitator, this facilitator can be a part of your own organization in the Sport Federation in the region, and we help them to actually become this locker room talk educator, so that you can use and you can send it to your teams.
Okay.
So that's one of.
So basically, your most valuable product is your methodology, right?
Exactly.
You are, and that's the reason you want to develop this further, yeah, and to pack it in a more digital way, probably.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Desi, I was thinking while listening, Shanga, not only about. I also would love if you comment the topic, yeah, because I believe that in Bulgaria, it's something that we do not speak a lot, and we do not address a lot. But also, I was listening from this business perspective. Yeah, who are the mediators who are, how to say, affecting your work? Yeah, for them, this is the trainers, the coaches. Yeah, and for you are again maybe the teachers or school principals. So feel free to comment both on a content and on more this business part.
Yeah, we're addressing, as I think I already mentioned, children between the ages of 6 and 14. So these are children that need the permission of their parents to do anything they do online. So parents are also a very important mediator in what we do, but of course teachers are the key, because as I also mentioned, this group dynamic that Knjigovište has into the concept, in the core of its concept, creating this group dynamic around reading, can happen only in larger groups where the children use the tool. And for this, teachers and schools and school principals are very important. For us, important are also municipalities. For the first year, we managed to have one, but the biggest, Sofia, the capital municipality, to propose to the schools, the city-owned schools in the city, to subscribe their 2nd and 3rd grades, all the classes. And this worked very well. So what we plan is to try and promote this model to other municipalities and make sure that they also get involved and provide some funding so that schools can subscribe their classes and the kids to use the tool. So this is a very important part of our business model. Of course, we're also addressing individual parents that have the chance to subscribe their children, or individually, or up to 4 children if they buy the family subscription. This is meant for the regions where the school does not have a subscription yet, but the kids still want to use it. We are offering this opportunity, but our end goal is basically really to reach out to as many schools as possible, because we think that this capacity of reading comprehension that builds the functional literacy is really vital for any learning that happens in school in this age, but also further on. So it's really the basic fundament on which one builds all the other knowledge blocks. So we think it's very important that we go to each and every school and are widely used there.
I think this is, I found common things between those two projects, although they're so different as a main purpose. But the common thing is that you both want to scale. Yeah, you both want to reach the whole country. Yeah, I think this is very important for social entrepreneurs, because many times we see a great social entrepreneurship ideas, but who are staying local. Yeah. And once you created a good methodology or a good product, it is a nature for an entrepreneur to scale, yeah, and to try to scale the social impact. And the second thing I think it's common, and it's interesting for me while listening, is that you are both working well with the institutions, yeah, because at the end beneficiaries are kids, and then you're working with their parents or coaches or teachers, but you need the support of the institutions, yeah, the municipalities, the sport clubs, the sport associations, the schools. So this is very important, and this is something again that many social entrepreneurs don't calculate very well. Yeah, they think that since they're entrepreneurs, they don't need to communicate with the institutions. Yeah, but in our case, it's different. Shanga, I interrupt you when you started to talk about your changes. Yeah, and may I ask before describe what you are planning to do now, and you and Desi after that. But may I ask you both how you feel this crisis? Yeah, do you feel it's more like a challenge or more like opportunity or some mixture between those two? Just a short few sentence answers from both of you, and then yeah. Shanga?
Well, I think and Desi, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, as owners, I think this is a challenge as everything we face in our daily organization, but it's also a challenge in a positive way, that we can actually take time now to develop some of the digital tools that we have had in mind for like a year now, but now people are actually interested in those tools. So that's a good thing. The challenge is that a lot of the organization is changing. For educations, the sport teams are not having practices as usual, and so on. So it has been a huge change, but I think the best thing is to just for us to take a step back and actually create something good out of it, if that's possible.
Do you have more time now for that this gives you some more time for reflection and planning?
Of course.
Or
yeah,
not?
And we have a lot of education now with Reach for Change, for example, for business modeling, but also developing these digital tools. And especially, as I said, the interest has, of course, increased for these digital educations. And just like for a few months ago, when I went to companies and I explained about this, they were like, well, this is not good right now. This is maybe 3 or 4 years ahead. So let's go back. And now they contact us and say, hey, can we just discuss these ideas again? So I think in that sense, that's a positive thing for our organization.
I see. I've heard something similar, Desi, from your colleagues, right? That some teachers that previously was suspicious now say, okay, digital tools, not so bad.
Well, first to your question, challenge or opportunity, I think that it is a key characteristic of the social entrepreneurs to turn challenges into opportunities. I think this is the core of what we're doing. So it's both, but we're used to that, you know, trying to see the opportunity in the challenge. And but why probably for projects like ours, which are digital, the opportunity element is a little bit heavier than in projects that are running offline. That's obvious, of course. First of all, lockdowns, probably some sport. There was a period when, not in Sweden though, yeah, but in many countries you could not do even sport. So that's a huge problem if you were operating not in Sweden but elsewhere in Europe. But in education, take Bulgaria and actually rest of Europe, at once all the teachers had to learn working with the computer. In Bulgaria, it was more than a decade when digital learning, using digital tools was kind of priority. It was written to be a priority. Computers, equipment was being bought for schools, etc. And somehow the teachers were reluctant. They didn't want to do it. There were all sorts of explanations. The teachers are getting old in general in Bulgaria. They cannot cope with these new technologies, etc. Now, within less than a week, They just had to, and they did. They learned it. They found a way. I've heard stories when some teachers invited some students to their house to show them how the program works, how to start it, how to do that, or some relatives, etc. But they did. They just had to. So this is somehow in Bulgaria, it was a huge shift, push towards digitization in the schools, and I think it will last. Even if coronavirus disappears in 1 or 2 years, let's hope sooner, but then this will stay as a new kind of skill that teachers in Bulgaria massively have. And as we are an online platform, it's at least theoretically makes it easier for us to enter and to be understood how we work and how we can be helpful to the teachers, to the parents, and to the kids. But on the other hand, the same thing has another side, and it's a challenge that because the homeschooling which goes online, teachers and parents are overwhelmed. I mean, if you have 2 or 3, not, God forbid, 3 children at home, and each of them have their online classes, you need at least 3 computers, and they all work on different platforms. And you have to help your children to log into this one and another one, and so on and so forth. And this is like all day long. The same for the teachers. They have different classes. They have to do a lot of online. And I sense, I mean, that's not the research, it's just talking to people. I sense that there is also this effect of like, I'm fed up with online, I'm fed up with these digital tools, I want real communication. So the opportunity has also the other side, and we should be aware of that, and yeah, think of ways how to go around
how
it.
It's affected your let's say the business part, the sales of subscriptions. Did you feel it somehow?
Yeah. Well, we decided, as many other projects, to offer our content for free till the end of the school year. This is the period when the children were supposed to stay home, and they will stay home till 15th of June, so that they can use it, because they have so little ability to do anything else. There was a period they were not even allowed to go for a walk in the park. So we thought that giving all the kids access to a tool that can continue the pleasure of reading and make them play around books would be a good thing to do. And at the same time, we thought it would also bring us new clients, or potential new clients, because once they create a profile in the free period, then later on we can ask them, so now please subscribe. So this is the first thing we did, and actually what we have, I was expecting more massive results. I was expecting more, but we had around 1,000, more than 1,000 new children profile, around 1,300 parents profiles, and around 400 teachers profiles, which is still something. The other thing we did was that we decided that now, this is something we have been planning, but we didn't have the capacity, time, human resources to start it, but we're deciding now to put it as a priority, was to start and create quizzes to text from the textbooks, čitanke in Bulgarian, right? So basically to help the teachers in Bulgarian language and literature to work, to offer them one more tool to work with the kids in the field of literature. So basically in these textbooks, there are short excerpts from books that the children have to do, to read, and then they are being discussed in class. We create, following our methodology, our quizzes, which test how much the children have the basic understanding of the text, how much they comprehend what they're reading. And we started now creating this text. And another third thing that we did was that we started a sort of a club for online reading of book and creation of quizzes for Knjigovosti.
May I ask you why you did these changes? Because one of the things would be interesting, maybe also for all audience, is why you are doing changes. Just because you have more free time, or just because you have some pressure from your customers, or because you see it as a new revenue? Why you did these specific changes or new ideas? Okay.
First of all, we don't have more time. Let me make this clear. But, well, the first, I think I explained. I mean, making it free, on the one hand, we thought it's a good gesture in the crisis situation to families and to children, and to. But on the other hand, it has a hook to it, so to say. We hope later on these new clients will become paying clients. That's the first. Then the second one, the textbooks. This was something, as I said, we always wanted to do, but we didn't have time, and it was not such a priority because at the first stage, we are less than a year, basically, into schools. We didn't prioritize that. We thought we should get a critical
and why it became priority
normal,
now?
so to say, quizzes, the key, and it became a priority because now there is online schooling. The teachers know how to use it. If we offer to teachers this extra tool that is very user-friendly, that they see works and helps their pupil to better work with the text and better understand them, then they'll understand in general the potential of Knjigovište.
Okay, now I'm jumping to Shanga. Thank you for being patient and listening about also the experience of Knjigovište. Would you like to tell us about your plans? Yeah, I interrupt you exactly at the moment. If you want, you can return back to your presentation, or without, it's up to you. Yeah, what you want to change and develop now.
Well, I think it could be interesting to show you some of the pictures.
Yes, please do.
What we have looked at. So, as I was talking about, we in the beginning had just this 8 weeks. That was the 8-week program. That's the core of Locker Room Talk. But not only due to the virus, but actually before we were looking at new digital ways to educate, but it became more. It became more actually at the time to make time to develop them and to see how they can take a part of Locker Room Talk's original methods. So one of them is Coach Journey. And that's, as I said, it's for coaches to actually become Locker Room Talk licensed coaches. So we don't have to be in all of the locker rooms. The change is that the coach for a sports team, for example, can go to our website, order this package with VR glasses. And in these VR glasses, we have programmed the whole education in emotional intelligence and how you can use our 8-week program yourself with your kids in the locker rooms. So this is one way to actually make a whole package of it. And I see this is not only something we will use now if we will develop it. This will actually be something we can use in the future when we are trying to find new facilitators. This is a way to actually educate more people in an effective way, but also have to control that it's a good quality, because you can actually collect data in live, in real time, all the time. Every move and every decision you make in virtual reality, it's actually in the results. So the thing is, when you have the glasses on, you are in an empty locker room and you are confronted that you are actually in front of you. You can see a lot of scenarios with kids doing the trash talk, and you have a coach in your ear telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And there is tests linked to this program. So this is one way. And the other way is more a long-term goal we are looking at. So we will start with Coach Journey, but the other one is the one we call Elite Sessions. And actually, this is quite similar to master classes, if you are aware of that, or otherwise Netflix, but in an educational purpose. So we want to use the biggest professional soccer players, hockey players in Sweden to actually record our own sessions. So maybe sessions from the 8-week program. So if you follow Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we will do 8 episodes with him, where each episode is maybe 30 minutes, exactly as the Locker Room Talk sessions, 8 weeks. But the change is that the sports coach can show one of those episodes in the locker room, and the kids can talk about it, and then they can have their own practice, and then they can do the same thing the next week and the week after that. So this is another way. But the conclusion we have done is that the virtual reality program in educational purpose is better because you can actually see the results during the time they are using it. This is quite harder to actually collect data and results, but we also see that this becomes very important for the teams to have something in their everyday life, so they don't just have 8 weeks. This is a program they can use every day for like a whole year. So these are the ideas we're all looking at right now.
It's amazing, especially about both. But I was reading about your virtual reality tool on your website, yeah, and I think it was written that some research shows that the children understand it better than video, right?
Yes, actually, there was a study called Stand Up, where Google and Harmony Labs made in the United States, where they used a virtual reality program with in a school, where during 6 weeks, one of the group used videos in virtual reality, and the other group saw the same videos but on the computer. But the conclusion was that the ones using virtual reality actually they were most likely to actually confront someone if something bad happened afterwards. And that's linked because when you use the virtual reality glasses, you're not disturbed by your friends, and they cannot laugh at you because you're in your own world. You have your headphones, and you don't see what other people are doing. So that's one of the advantages of using virtual reality.
But from a practical point of view, is it? I suppose it's much more expensive to develop the whole software in virtual reality. Who is paying? Do you have a special investor for this specific product, or you use your own profit, or how you develop this new product?
So last year we got a project grant here in Sweden to actually develop methods for coaches and trainers. But at the time we didn't have this idea. So during this year we actually came up with this idea, and now we will change a bit of the money to actually develop this. But that will not have it all. So we will do some of our own budget, but also we are looking for investors. But I would say to actually develop an app for virtual reality, if you find not to go to a big company, just to find actually people that are doing it by themselves, that are quite smart as social entrepreneurs, it's not more expensive than develop an app for the phone, actually. So I think it's
impressive. Yeah, cool. I have another question to both of you. I'm just listening about the changes you are planning, Shanga. It was interesting for me to see that you are inspired by the sport industry, right? Because you're connected, you see what they're doing, what methods they're using. And that's my question to you first, Shanga, and then to Desi. Who is the examples that inspire you as again, as a business models, as a way of development? Is it for you, Shanga, indeed the sport industry or something else?
I would say the sport industry, of course, but actually in our team, we're looking a lot of, we get inspired by tech companies and also IKEA, actually, because like just to have the idea that you could, I recently found the Better Shelter. Have you heard of it? So that was a collaboration between IKEA and a company called Better Shelter, where refugees maybe, would have a tough situation. You order a whole like package to actually have a home if you don't have like an IKEA package. And these kind of things inspire me to actually create difference in a way that you could just go order on your website and make it a package, but it actually makes a difference. So I think that's one of our biggest inspirations, to actually see how you can do these kind of solutions.
And Desi, who is your inspirations? Because I know that Knigovište started as kind of some similar to Antolin projects in German-speaking countries. But I suppose that now you are much more adaptive than then. Yeah, you're smaller and maybe more creative. Who inspired you?
Yeah, the starting point was Antolin.de, which is a German platform, basically similar to what we do, but because they're already 15 years old, I think we are more up to date, so to say. We use much more the gamification element, and I think we are becoming better, but we don't have as many questionnaires as they do. But I was very inspired when I got confronted with this platform, because I saw how simple solutions can address big questions, big issues, big problems. And I'm always getting inspired by that and kind of get ready, and this triggers my desire to jump in and do something, you know. So yeah, there was a concrete model,
Yes.
inspiration.
And then I have another question, but I'm using the opportunity to say to the audience, we have 25 people that are watching us. If you have questions, please write it in the chat and we'll reply. I don't want to stop the discussion just to wait for questions, but we'll continue, but we'll read the chat. So please write if you have specific questions. So my next question to both of you, Shanga and Desi, is what are main lessons learned from this the last few months? Yeah, because you know it was in January, in February we did some plans, we have some ideas, we have a business and financial models, etc. And then only for 2 months it seems that the whole world has changed. Yeah, and we also need to change. Yeah. And then we did our best, sometimes maybe some mistakes or some wrong assumptions, or maybe we still don't know. What is your main lessons learned just for this period of time as a social entrepreneur? Desi, would you like to start?
Well, I was thinking, yes, about what you said, that so many things that we thought were unavoidable and very necessary just disappeared. And for me, it's a big challenge. That's ispitание, I wanted to say anyway. Somehow to see whether what you're doing will survive. And actually, when you see that you're investing in something which can last through such crises, it's very rewarding for me, because education, I think, will always be needed, and parents always care for their children and they care for them. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I was disrupted. So basically what I learned and what was really rewarding was to learn that what we do is...
And it's meaningful. Yeah,
surviving
it's
the
meaningful.
crisis, so to say. It's proven...
it's you know, it's echoing something that in the morning session we have Emilia Angelova from one of the few impact funds, investment funds in Bulgaria, together with co-founder, together with Pavel Ezekiev. And Emilia said that from investors' point of view, it's really a market test. Yeah, they will see how many of the social entrepreneurs will survive. Yeah, and it's from investor points of view. She said that's quite meaningful for us. It's good for us. Yeah, it's surviving mode, and yeah, I do believe, Desi, that you are a very strong project with a huge potential. It's impressive how you adapt and develop. And Shanga, what is your lessons learned from these few months?
I think one of the biggest lessons is that because now we actually have a workshop, 2 workshops with Brief for Change here in Sweden, focus on business modeling and scaling. And I think one of the biggest learnings is the importance to actually listen to your target groups' daily routines. And this is like something I think I have heard a lot of times, but I don't think I have understood how important it is. Like, we can develop the greatest ideas, but if I don't find the time for my customers to use it during their daily routine, that doesn't mean that I have done something good, because they will not use it. So we have done a lot of interviews with coaches and parents and the young kids during these times, just to understand how does a day look like in your life. And actually, this is not a question we have been asking the end users before. But now during these workshops, that became something that I became aware of. And I think it's very interesting to listen to when they have time to actually use something like this VR program.
That's very interesting. And when they have time? Yeah?
Actually, a lot of them...
Is it during the walker room before training? And in the meantime, while listening, I'm checking there is a question now. But
actually, I was quite shocked that a lot of the coaches and parents said during lunch break at my work, that will be the best time I will use it. So that actually the majority of them that we have interviewed that has got that answer for it. So that was something new for us actually. So actually then we have to fit the education to actually be good so they can use it during the lunch breaks.
Cool. And now we have a question. You may see it in the chat, but it's a good one. And by the way, it's an interesting question because it seems that the current crisis, it's not a big challenge for you. And that's the reason our audience asking us, when was the moment of the maybe the biggest tough times and challenges for you, and how you overcome, and then what you keep going you through this period. Desi, would you like to start?
Well, I think I said before that for me, it's a core characteristic of the social entrepreneurs that they look for challenges and then transform them into opportunities. So I would say that every step, when you start from scratch to develop a tool, to develop then its audience, to develop a community that would support it and that would fund it and that would help you grow, every step and every aspect of it is challenging. I mean, you every day on a daily basis, there are issues, there are questions you have to solve, you have to discuss, you have to be creative, you have to find new paths that no one has gone through yet. So I would not be able to name one big challenge, but like every day is a challenge.
Yes,
and this
but
is what
still,
is actually inspiring about it.
I never asked you this question, by the way. It's an interesting one, but do you still have a moment? Yeah, maybe some late evening, tired, or some moment, I don't know, when you just say, fuck, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, I'm desperate. Yeah, do you have this moment?
No, not yet. But I think one thing that keeps you going is when you get the feedback from the people who use your tool, in our case, the platform, from the parents, from the kids, from the teachers. It's so rewarding that it keeps you going for quite some time, even if there are tough aspects and there are hard times. When you see that you're affecting people and making their lives a little bit more interesting, probably, then, or better, whatever, you're affecting them in a positive way.
Yeah,
let's put it like
this. I think
this,
that's very important. That's make us social entrepreneurs. Great. Shanga, what is your reply to this question?
Well, I think a lot of times, because like we started Locker Room Talk in high school, and directly after high school, I started to work with Locker Room Talk. And now we are several people, and the only education I have, informal education, is from a young boy to high school. So everything is a new thing for me. How do I manage to have employees? I don't know anything of it. Like these challenges and situations, they are really tough, and sometimes you don't feel like you can manage it because you are quite hard on yourself. But I think also when you're developing new tools, as right now, like virtual reality, I have nothing on virtual reality. I have never done and developing apps in virtual realities, and that's also always, I think, in our organizations, a lot of us change leaders, we always come to new areas that we don't know anything of it, but we think it's interesting, and that's very tough. But what makes me keep going is to actually go back to why am I doing this? And that's for my brother that is also playing soccer, and I want him to be in a locker room which is safe and have a good talk with his friends and talking about emotions. And I think that's my responsibility as a man, but also as a big brother. So that idea also always keeps me motivated.
And that's so important. Thank you, Shanga, for sharing it. And we have a question from PROMYANATA, especially for you, Shanga. How do you manage to attract so many famous ambassadors? Yeah, what do you think is their motivation?
Well, that's a tricky one. I think something that we have been focusing on is to be an organization that is also something that the ambassador thinks it's cool. Like, because when we analyze a lot of, and let me explain what I mean with cool. When we analyze nonprofits in Sweden, for example, and the organization says we work with young kids and boys, most of the time it's very on a level where it could be for maybe kids that are from 2 to 5 years old. But in our target group, if you meet a boy that is 14 years old, in his head, he's a grown-up. So he don't want to have Super Mario on his jacket. He wants to have the biggest stars. He wants to come to our website, and that will feel like Nike or Adidas. And I think when you create that kind of tonality in your communication, I think maybe that could also be something that we can reach out to the ambassadors. But I think one thing that is common with all of the ambassadors we have met, all of them has some experience from the locker room, and especially the locker room talk and the trash talk. And I think that's an easy way to actually start a conversation with ambassadors.
Cool. But I think it's so important because many times the social entrepreneurs forget about the good communication. Yeah, sometimes we are so focused on our social purpose that we forgot that we need to speak to a larger audience. Yeah, we are convinced by ourselves, but we don't understand that in order to really to make a system change, we really need to address more people. So being social and cool in the same time is something that I personally will take out of this discussion. And maybe the last question, because we have to finish in 4 minutes. May I ask you for 2 minutes, each of you, to say if you have an advice for a person who wants to start a social enterprise now? Yeah, what would you advise, especially in these hard times? Yeah, I know it's tricky.
Okay, maybe look at, don't get into any project if it doesn't make your heart beat quicker, so to say. If it doesn't really engage your own emotions, and if you're really not burning for this issue, it really doesn't make your heart beat quicker, don't go into it, because there will be challenges on every step. And if you don't have this passion, then it's going to be hard and maybe you'll give up. But more probably, if you have this passion, personal commitment, then you won't, and you will succeed.
That's great. Shanga?
This is always a tricky one. Always. I think I have to repeat this. I think that's the core of it. But also to write it down in the beginning, because like we started Locker Room Talk 4 years ago, and now we're sitting to actually to make the best. What is our mission, to actually concrete it and develop it? What's our mission? What's our vision? And I think that's something I had to do when I already started. So actually, just remind yourself why you want to do it, and write all of the ideas down during the process, because that will help. I think that will help you when you have done some steps during the journey.
And that's a very clever advice. Thank you. Okay, I think we have to finish now. I will allow myself to say that I'm so happy that we have this opportunity to bring both you, Shanga, and Desi in this discussion, because although you are doing different things in different countries, there are so many common things in your passion, in your success, in your ambition. It's so impressive. You are really examples of successful social entrepreneurs, and I'm happy that I had a chance to meet you and to work with you. So let's hope that we have new meetings. Yeah, and it seems, looking the feedback, that the audience was also excited, and yeah, from what you've said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, and hope to see you soon, and maybe in live. Yeah, and Shanga, you are doing really great things. Maybe we have to think how to enlarge to Bulgaria.
Thank you, and you too, guys. You too. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing from you. Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.